Welcome to part 26 of this series, trying to locate the sons of Noah and where they really went to. In the previous video we were speaking about the Cimmerians, and we said that the Cimmerians entered into an alliance with the Scythians, and we said that we learned from Japheth that the Scythians come out of Magog, and Magog is the second son of Japheth. But we said studying these Scythians might be quite difficult, and we're going to see why in this video. And we've got these two different distinctions: classical Scythians, Pontic Scythians. And when I saw those Pontic Scythians, I couldn't help but think about the work that we've been doing recently in Anatolia. And please watch some of the previous videos to know what we're speaking about, because we had this video saying were the ancient kingdoms of Portugal and Spain moved on the map to Anatolia. Because now, when I see this, when I think about these Pontic Scythians, and I see Pontus and the Pontus Euxinus, and we saw that connection between the Euxinus and the Ashkenaz, but where's the land of Ashkenaz? And we saw that evidence bringing us here for these tribes of Gomer in Gaul, in Galatia, and the Germania. So I just thought I'd search for Pontus, and we do have this place called Pontus in France, New Aquitaine region. Let me show you where that is. The region of France here, and this region seems to be coming up quite a bit in our study. But I also searched for another variation, the Pontos, and that came up Spain, Catalonia. So that's this region here in Spain. So just interesting, we have these two different options of Pontus and Pontos. And I think that's the Greek word for sea. So it's just making me wonder about these Pontic Scythians, because when the scholars and the historians see the Euxinus written in the ancient records, and they connect it with the Black Sea here, it brings all these kingdoms here and all the history here. And then when you're looking for the Pontic Scythians, you're going to be looking in this region. Let's carry on with this video, and I just want to read you a few things from here, because it says that the Babylonians and the Persians and the Greeks used the name Cimmerian, Saka and Scythian for all the steppe nomads. So that's going to make it quite difficult to know who you're dealing with in the historical record. And it says here, this scholar says that he notes with dismay that the term Scythian has been used within both a broad and a narrow context, leading to a good deal of confusion. So we're going to try to see if we can try and understand some of this confusion in this video. So let's look at the Pontic Scythians, because I saw something interesting with this. Now, I'm not sure about this map, but let's just think about, I just want to show you this thing that I found that I thought was quite interesting. So we have a tribe called the Sindhi, and it's a Scythian tribe that they're speaking about with these Pontic Scythians. And when I saw the Sindhi tribe, I thought back to the work that we were doing. I'll show you this video to remind you. We spoke about was Tyrus or Elam, the ancestor of the Persians, and the connection between Cush and the Thracians. Let me show you this tradition again. It was this Persian historian who said that there was a tradition that the wife of Cush was named Carnibil, daughter of Batuel, son of Tyrus, and that she bore him the Abyssinians, the Sindhis, and the Indians. So we see that, look, the Sindhis. So I can't be sure that it's connected, but if these Sindhis are the same Sindhi that we got here, considered as Scythian people, then this could be quite interesting for this little study that we're doing in this video. So let's go with the premise that they are connected, because the names are very similar, and see if we can find some evidence to maybe strengthen the connection. So if we look back here, it said that the Sindhi tribe were living alongside the Sigonais. So maybe they'd be related. And if we look at the Sigonais, this is a very obscure nomadic people considered Scythian. And it says that they were, according to Herodotus, they were living north of Thrace. So that's interesting, because if we think back to this tradition, we can see that these nations are coming out of Tyrus, and Tyrus is the progenitor of the Thracians. So then it might make sense of them living near Thrace, descendants of Tyrus, because they could be descended from them. So that part kind of makes sense, that they'd be potentially living north of Thrace. they could be descended from Tyrus. And it also says that they claim to be colonists from the Medes, from the lands of the Medes, of Media, which is interesting. But this part further down that I wanted to read and show you, it says, in the 19th and 20th centuries, some scholars attempted to connect the Sigune with the Romani people, because this is the Roma, due to an alleged similarity of the name Sigune with the Hungarian name for the Romani, Sigani. But this has been discredited and no longer considered to have any validity. But I find it interesting, this connection with the Romani and the Sigune, because if we go to the Romani or the Roma, they're considered an Indo-Aryan ethnic group, and we've been speaking about this idea of the Aryans, with them following the Vedic religion and the connection with the language Sanskrit and considering themselves the nobles or the freemen. But you can see the derogatory terms for them, like the gypsies. So there are people that have been persecuted and throughout history in Europe, and they didn't leave. They didn't have many written records for their history, so we're not sure about their origin and their history. But some interesting connections being made if we look that the genetic findings suggest an Indian origin for the Roma, and there's also linguistic evidence connecting them to the to India. So it's this part that's potentially very fascinating, because if we kind of go through all those details again, we can see how this potentially could link together. That if we go back to the Scythians, the Pontic Scythians, we had the Sindhi tribe, and then we saw the Sindhi and looked back to this tradition, and we saw the Sindhi coming out of Tyrus and Kush, intermarrying between their descendants. But then we can also see that Indians were coming out of this union. So Sindhis and Indians and Abyssinians, and that's in Ethiopia. And that was also important in that video where we spoke about very early on the confusion between Ethiopia and India in the ancient world, and some parts of East Africa being called India. So that's potentially the connection, because you've got these Sindhi, but they're also related to the Indians. So now if we think about this detail and go back to the Sigune, potentially also maybe related to the Sindhi, they've been connected to the Romani, a nomadic people, an obscure nomadic people. And when we go to them, through genetics, they're linking them to India. Can you see that? How they can all kind of make sense with this tradition, with these potentially Scythian nations coming out of Tyrus and Kush, and their connection to India, because you've got Abyssinians, Sindhis, and Indians. So they could have genetic DNA connecting them to India, and linguistic connections as well. But it doesn't actually mean that they have to come from India, because if we go back here, we see that that they claim to be colonists from Media, from the land of the Medes. And we're speaking about the Medes and their connections to Elam and to Arphaxad, the land of the Medes being in Africa. So just because they have DNA evidence connecting them to India and linguistics, it doesn't mean they actually have to come from India. So I thought that was very fascinating, and just potentially, obviously it's potential speculation, but that finds some evidence that could support this tradition. And this is a very potentially important tradition with this Kush and Tyrus, because it could have quite a bit of impact in the ancient world and with the history. And yeah, I also brought this up because I think now we can start to see the confusion and how difficult it's going to be to study the Scythians, because we may have made a mistake in the previous video when we let me just look to that history. We were kind of speaking about the Comarians and the Scythians, and then when we saw the Scythians, we brought up this detail from Josephus and its connection to Magog, and saying that the Scythians come out of Magog. But we can't be sure exactly who these Scythians are. Can you see? Because if it's these Pontic Scythians that's speaking about here, potentially they could be actually coming out of Kush and Tyrus, not coming out of Magog. So can you see that it's very difficult? And yeah, I'd like to have something more concrete from Magog, but I think I've said it before that it's difficult with the sons of Japheth because of the lack of history in the written records. But I wanted to show you something else, that we do have some other ideas for Magog. We have some medieval traditions. Johannes Magnus stated that Magog migrated to Scandinavia via Finland 88 years after the flood, and that his 5 sons were Sueno, ancestor of the Swedes; Getar, or Gog, ancestor of the Goths; Ubbo, who later ruled the Swedes and built Old Uppsala; Thor, and German. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but it's interesting that connecting Magog to Scandinavia with Finland and Sweden. Okay, so here we have the highlighted area for Scandinavia: Sweden, Norway, Denmark. Sometimes Finland is also included in Iceland, but this is what we really know as it's called Scandinavia. So we've got this connection with Magog in this region, and just it makes me wonder when we think about Josephus, because I think it says it in here. It says Josephus refers to Magog, son of Japheth, as progenitor of the Scythians, or peoples north of the Black Sea. You see, we have that Black Sea again. Now he's probably speaking about the Euxinus, but then when they make the when they connect the Euxinus with the Black Sea, then we're looking for descendants of Magog to the north of this region of the Black Sea. I haven't got it on this map, but maybe we can see it on this other map. Yeah, it connects them to the north of Black Sea, this region here. But if we think potentially what we're looking at in our study in these previous videos, and we're starting to have different ideas about the Pontus, and we think maybe that it's it's called the land. It's called the Sea of Ashkenaz. If we start looking in this region and think about what Josephus is saying, that the descendants of Magog live north to the Sea of Ashkenaz, maybe this might be a better fit for Magog with the Scandinavia, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Magog, and yeah, I would like to have something more conclusive. If anybody knows of any details and has any ideas for something that's is a better fit for Magog, please put a message in the comments, so we can all learn. And I would like to do one more video on Magog, and it's going to be looking at an Irish tradition, an Irish legend about Magog, and it's going to be very interesting because it's going to actually help us with this this picture that we're looking at here with these kingdoms, and yeah, it's going to be, I think it'll be quite an interesting one. So thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.